1972 is a very important year to me. It's the year that I was born, but it's also the year that Limits to Growth was being published. And Limits to Growth, as you maybe don't know, is the best-selling environmental book in history. It sold over 30 million copies. And for the first time, it theorized on a modern notion of sustainability. And to me, it was very important. It also showed the crucial role of cities avoiding a planetary crisis in terms of environment and ecology. So here it is, because I was a bit puzzled learning about this. I believe that cities are one of the greatest inventions of humankind. But on the other hand, they are the largest threat to the health of our planet. So how to deal with this? And it didn't stop there. Since 1972, more people entered cities, creating more GDP, more happiness, but also more CO2 expression. So this dialectic didn't stop there. That's why we started Fabrications in 2007, me and Ulf Klein together. We think that spatial designers should have a role in changing this objective of the future. We should help creating healthy urban ecosystems for a sustainable future. So we traveled around the world, did projects everywhere, but we found actually the contrary. It is not so that this message of 1972 really had impact, but we are starting to pay for an unsustainable way of growing. And that is what this image maybe symbolizes. It's a great picture of Iwan Baan. You see again New York, but now after the impact of Hurricane Sandy. A complete blackout, a total standstill of the center of the city. 8.5 million people were hurt by this, and the ecology was destroyed. So, as you know, some think climate change is not real, but I think if you see images like this, you are convinced. And if you're not convinced about the way we should treat them, that we should prevent them instead of, let's say, repair them afterwards, then this number might trigger your thought again. This whole thing costed $19 billion, and I'm sure that we could spend half of it up front by trying to prevent it. It could have been a cheaper disaster. Now, some people think that dikes, or walls for the matter of fact, are the solutions to everything. And sure, this will keep you from wet feet. But you see immediately the next challenge coming. The ecological boundaries that we've been working or designing here, the obstructed airflow, the huge maintenance costs will add to the problem. So I'm convinced that these old solutions are too one-sided. They are not complete enough, and they are not really understanding the system that they try to respond to. So what I'm trying to say is that this is an alternative, and this is not my concept for bringing half of Manhattan down to a forest condition. No, this is an idea that cities revolve around a natural balance, and that we have to start to learn to understand this natural balance. So a city is not a collection of buildings, but it's a system of city and land, where in the land food is being produced, and in the city it's been eaten. Maybe in the countryside energy is produced, but it's used in the city. So this whole system I call a system or an urban region. And it's a crucial notion that this is the beginning of another kind of positioning against designing cities. So for me the question is it possible to look at the system as if it is a living organism, a human? So what if we start looking at these cities and try to imagine them as living organisms as well? And to do that, I have to introduce this other topic. It's called urban metabolism. So behind me, you see a guy, but you have to picture a city. And the city does the same as I do. I'll take in materials and resources every day, I process them, and I excrete them again. And that's what cities do every day. But there's a big difference. We know that in your body and my body at this same moment, 7,400 chemical reactions take place right now. We can actually map them, and we completely understand them. So if we want to create a better health performance for my body, we actually know where to turn the buttons. But for cities, this is a much bigger challenge. We are just about to learn how they process, and I challenge one of you to actually describe one of these processes. It's very hard to do. But still we can learn from that metaphor. Like our bodies, The city is a collection of infrastructures and flows. And in my body, every flow has a specific infrastructure, and that specific infrastructure facilitates a specific speed for that flow. And that is not so far away from how cities work. So the way data is being transferred through an urban system by glass fiber wiring is very close to what happens in my nerve system when my brain sends a message to one part of my body. So let's say we agree upon the fact that there is some similarity. A city can be seen as a living organism or as a human, maybe as Michelangelo's David. David is the ideal image of man for decades now. And let's assume that this body needs to behave differently because its environment is starting to demand new performances of that body. Or actually what I'm saying is the city has to change. So let's say we learn David that he can survive a car crash. We probably respond like this. We give him a helmet, a harness, some protection gear, and we hope he will absorb the shocks and survive the car crash that is upcoming, the future. But I'm wondering if this is really the right answer. The answer has been posed before by another team, and they've designed Graham. And Graham was compiled or redesigned by an artist, a trauma surgeon, a traffic engineer, and they designed a human that can actually absorb shocks. Graham can survive a car crash and is fundamentally rethought. So he has a bigger skull, he doesn't need a helmet. His brain is in a bag of fluid, so he can absorb shocks. He doesn't have a neck anymore, so he can't brake, and so on. So, well, it's kind of convenient in a car crash. So the rethinking of this body to perform and differently is super important. So Graham doesn't look like anything you know because he's performing very different from everything we know. And that is exactly the question I work on every day when I build cities or design buildings. The question is, what is the equivalent of Graham in architecture? So I'll give you one example. One example is situated here in Amsterdam. It's a decommissioned prison. It's called Bijlmer Bias, which we try to transform in the future, the neighborhood of the future. It's a very healthy neighborhood. And it's situated in south of Amsterdam. And here you see the spatial arrangement. And of course, the new design that we are trying to make and trying to build has to, of course, spatially connect to its context. But at the same time, we want to learn about the city's metabolism to also make sure that the system that we are applying on this spot is actually enhancing that metabolism, making sure that people live more healthy and that the economy is vibrant and that we are climate adaptive. So we've developed this 6-theme analysis to assess the city. So when you see that aerial picture, we see a vital economy infrastructure and opportunities to enhance this. We see new spaces that can strengthen the infrastructure for healthy life for animals, plants, and humans. We see potential for meeting places. Also see the historical context being getting a new future on the same spot. So we feel trusted and we recognize the environment we will live in the future. Besides those social metabolic aspects, we also have physical metabolic aspects. So is the city climate proof? Can we build this new neighborhood with materials that are already in that city? And can we understand the old fossil-based energy infrastructure and transform it into an infrastructure of the future? And besides these 6 aspects, we also approach a holistic way of looking at these interactions between these different layers. And that's how we now work on not only the spatial intervention of cities, but also the systemic interventions in cities. And within this metabolic principle, we have one building here that plays a crucial role, and that is the Green Tower. And the Green Tower is a former prison tower that we transform into a vertical park. And it's the beating heart of this new neighborhood. We excavated the tower, giving space to 3 vertical gardens piled up upon each other. So we give Amsterdam a complete new condition. You can experience a park and at the same time look over the skyline of the city. But it's not only a green tower because of the green park. It's also a green tower because of the green infrastructure that is knotted in here. So this is the place where all the organic waste of the neighborhood will be collected and transformed into energy and compost. And of course, this compost will be used to build the park again. So it's also a spatial experience, a new spatial experience, and in that matter, a new kind of Graham translated into architecture. And beyond that spatial experience, or below it, you might say, there's this fundamental idea of the system that it has to enhance. The context of Amsterdam should be enhanced by this building, and also the sustainable future. So this building really relates to this idea of urban metabolism. The Green Tower actually shows that it is possible to look at buildings and cities as if they are living beings, that it is required to design systems and processes that strengthen and shaping spaces, shaping buildings, reactivating cities. But we should ignore this idea that we do this with the mindset of adding or add-ons for sustainability. We should actually rethink how we build, and in that sense, it's time for a design revolution. And let's face it, I mean, 2022 is really around the corner, and we can't permit ourselves another 50 years to wait to start and act now in designing healthy cities. Thank you very much.